Tutorial version for the business financial templates. Let's jump right in. I know this is going to be a longer video, and just to help you out, I'm going to be going through all these different sheets, and so you can skip forward in the video if there's certain places that you're looking for, so that way you should be able to find the information. And let's just go back and start here at the beginning. So on our very first page, I talk about printing, and so I'll show you on the different pages how it's applicable, but we're going to talk about this zooming out feature right here, as well as our printing for scale and resizing font. So when I open up a different sheet, we'll see the difference. So it's a little close. It works great when you're inputting data and things like that, but when I zoom out, I can get a much fuller picture. And then when I print, so let's say if there's certain data that I want to print, this is where you can manipulate. So I don't do a lot of printing. Most of my stuff is digital based, though you can play around with how you want it to print. And then this is where I talk about scale variations. So you can see, like, if you print 100%, you can see what this looks like. And depending on which data you want printed out, you can print in black and white. Hide different data columns that you're wanting to print. What I like to do is if there's different things, I'll actually resize it to print it and either Control Z or revert it, or I'll make a duplicate. So how you make a duplicate of a page right here, and you would just click duplicate. So then I'll take whatever data, duplicate it, make it bigger for printing, and then generally I'll delete that page, or you can keep it if you're going to be reprinting things on it. And so that's how I will go ahead and do it, just because I've noticed if I make it big enough on this sheet to print, it's way too big to function on an everyday use if you're using it digitally. So covering that, hopefully that understands the printing aspect of it. And then this is how we're going to download this file straight into your own Google Drive, which is really handy. It also, you have an Excel version if you like Excel, and you can pop it right into there. So for Google Drive, make sure you're logged into your own account, so make sure your icon up there is your own. And then you can click this link, which is also spelled out for you right here in case you need to. So when you click this link, which I already have up, it's going to ask you for a password. So on your version, the password is going to be right there. So we'll click the link. It'll take you to this page. You're going to see enter password. I've already done that, so that way we have access. And then this is your link. So right here, it's going to link to a Google Drive file, which is the current copy of the one that I'm working on. And then there's also an Excel version just to make sure that you have it in case you need to, but it also comes with your downloaded version. So back over here, so you'd click those links, view the file, come into a Google Sheet version, and then this is where this file, and click make a copy, and that puts a duplicate of this into your own Google Drive to then be able to edit and customize as you need to. If you need any help, go ahead, you can email me. This is also going to be a updated link of this actual video for each session, so you have your video link as well as a link to your template pages. So there you go. So the next tab over, which we saw as far as our printing, is our totals. So I put this in 2022, my latest updated version. These sheets are actually what I use in my own businesses, and it's definitely morphed over the years, changed with different businesses, and so this is the current thing. And so these are the data spots that I like to see. So I have two different businesses on these sheets, so I can see different sales, different aspects that I want, like, hey, I want to know the average profit. So if I think about that, I can go ahead and we do our right click and then insert rows when I think of new data I want to add, or if this doesn't apply to your business, you can go ahead and delete the rows. So this is how you can customize everything that you need. And so then, like, I've taken the same data, say my expenses, and I've broken it down in different ways so you can see things. So I like to see what different payroll services are breaking down to rather than just general payroll. Same thing when I talk about expenses and things like that. So broken down, I can see different businesses when they apply to different business, as well as I like my fixed and varied expenses. So I know every month this would be the baseline of, like a cell phone, internet, that sort of stuff that's always going to be fixed, website costs, and then your varied would vary month to month. So that's how and then I have these sums that just double check so that way you make sure that your work is correct and all of the total expenses are the same down the road depending on how they're broken into. And then transferring money, this is how I keep the cash flow going in my business. And so that way I have profits deposited into one account I call deposit. And then I have separate payroll accounts as well as a business expense account. So that way I can keep track and I don't, accidentally overspend if there's a lot of money and then I wouldn't have payroll or vice versa. That's why I like to have two different accounts. So I have them spelled out. And so then these tell you the allocated based on percentages and then actual amounts. Which can vary on whatever you might need. And then same thing. So for owners, I like the idea we have our active income. So if you're involved in the business and it's something you actually have to do, or AKA owner payroll. And then we have owner profits. So separating that out and giving yourself a percentage of passive income is incredibly important. And that's what I learned in my very, very first business. Not having that sucked. So I've made sure to build that into my every other businesses that have come since then, is getting passive owner profits. And so that is a great sense of having that part. And then if you have investors or loans to pay back, figuring out a percentage of that. And the great thing, and you'll see on the monthly templates, that's where you come up with these different amounts. And so then it's very easy to change and morph if you want, whether it's a percentage or flat rates. And then these keep track of actual paid amounts versus what's the allocated amounts. And then it has differences, and we have year to dates. And then as you'll see, you can morph in different months. So I put in January and February sample data, and then you can go ahead, tweak what you need to do for your months, because obviously yours won't look the same as mine, and then you just duplicate your sheets to generate the rest of your year. And then magic money is what I've catchphrased. And so this is how my business gives to charity. And then also there's money that goes towards business savings, investments, goal, like my ultimate dream goals, fund monies, and education monies. So those are allocations that I put things into. So I will go ahead and show you where the monthly will tie into all that, and then you're going to see how to get your data from there. So just our monthly template, this is a blank version of our January, February. So you can see how the template and breaking it down. So these are just different things I've liked to see over the years. So these are new sales, total sales. We have profits for different business. So I like to definitely note the difference between what the profit is versus total gross sales. Especially in business number 2, there's a big provider cost that comes in. So total sales is nowhere near what the actual profit is. And then that's where it comes up with profit margins for both businesses. And then right here where it says manual entry, these are the only things you actually have to go and input. So for total number of sales, you just would visually look for business number 1 and see how many sales for the month. So let's say if we went down to item like 8, you would just import an 8, click enter, and voila, it would be showing up. Then we'll say if we do it in January, it would be showing up then on the year to dates. So that's how they're all ingrained. Okay, so coming down here, this is my bank account and balances, and this is where kind of my focus is when I do my data entry. So I use this to go ahead and record all of the different transactions. So pretty easy when I jump into doing accounting, I just go through one bank after the next, or one account, and then one bank after the next. So I have 2 different banks. with multiple accounts at each one, and then PayPal accounts for the business, and then 2 different ways that I make website sales as well as a business credit card. So it is a lot to keep track of, and so this is how I've made sense over the years of keeping track. And so then my account nicknames, so I've called this like the deposit account. So the profits that come from the sales from business number 1 and business number 2 get transferred into this deposit account and then get dispersed to paying business expenses, business payroll. And then there's business savings accounts and things like that. So how I do it, oh, and then those numbers are the last 4 digits of the account. So a lot of times when you're doing banking, it's going to give on the banking side the last 4 digits of accounts. So that way this is incorporated in my nickname, and it makes it very easy to track which account is going to the next ones. So I have my current beginning balances and then your ending balance, or if, say, like I'm in the middle of the month, it would be my current balance. Differences. And then what I love is the total overall money. So when you're transferring back and forth, it's awesome to see your total money in your possession for the beginning of ending in each month, because maybe different accounts go up and down, though overall you can see if you are gaining or losing money. And then the transactions are where I keep track of all the different things. So say there's 10 transactions in the month for the deposit account, I go through then on the rest of the sheet and put in the 10 transactions, whatever they belong, and then I use my little star to reconcile. Say, okay, I've done, all the 10 transactions for deposit account, and then put a little star next to each of those 10, and then go through. So then say the expense account has 5, I would go through and put the 5 over where they belong over here, and then put the stars. And so it's, let's say if it's a transfer between your deposit and expense, those generally would have 2 stars, and then they would be counting. And you'll see how I put those kind of things on the example sheets. So let's see, these are the allocations. So you can go ahead, and this tells based on a percentage. And so what it does is it just grabs the current month's profit and calculates automatically what you need to transfer. And then I just record when I actually do my transfers. And then profit allocations, same thing for owners or loans, keeping track of all those different payments, payments for those magic money transfers, things like that. This is where I list all the payroll for businesses and expenses, and then listing out what your fixed costs are versus your varied. And then credit card transaction payments, and then I like to note when my credit card was paid off. So if I paid it all down mid-month, I'll note that date, because there's always going to be new credit card charges that pop up. And then keeping track of what was charged for the month and when it was paid off, and then transferring between different business accounts goes here. And then up above is our different costs for the businesses. So like I mentioned, I have 2 different business scenarios. So this business, you have a bunch of provider costs that come out of the profit. And so then I keep track of those payments and things like that. So those are tied in. And so then this would be the monthly data of sales, as well as when it would say, website payment, such and such. And you're going to see the examples. Though that leads us, there you go, back to the beginning. And so for our examples, you can look through on your own, but this is where you plug in the data and you can see how it corresponds. And then, for example, when we're done with February, or you would go ahead, you'll click duplicate, and that can turn into our March. So we can go ahead, we'll click rename. March. I guess I'll put sample at the beginning. Perfect. So if you see, we'll say that there's 2 sales in March. Oh, and then just a note, see, active income means that the owner was involved in it versus non-active. Could be passive sales, things like that, or other people did it. Okay, so we'll say that there was 2 sales. So you manually update to 2 for March. Change that to say March. It's cap lock, but whatever's. Okay, so when you come back to your year to date, and we want to grab our total number of sales, I just click the equal sign, go find it in my March, and there we grab our total sales. There you go. And so if we add it, remove it, whatever it changes in the mid-month, it's going to update to our year-to-date. So what I do is once I populate a new spreadsheet like March, then I go through and I grab the data. It's also really good in that sense. It doesn't take that long to grab the data, but it makes you very familiar and double checking. And I just love having this. It's such a good way to see it, and it's fluid and updates. And yeah, that's the way that I've tracked my year-to-date sales for quite a long time. I just couldn't get the exact visual picture or data breakdowns and such from a general software program. Okay, so hopefully that gives you the idea. Remember that equal sign and then grab the data for your next months. Then let me jump over to our sales. So these I also sell individually. Someone just wants a good sales tracking sheet. And so these are just blank templates, so you can enter in the data. What makes it easy when it ties in with this is you would literally just copy paste these guys, and then it grabs the data, automatically populates, and you're good to go. And so then that way it would technically, this would be March data, so I would pull it down and add the January and February data on top of that. So there you go. So then we have two business scenarios. So there's two blank templates that you can add your own data, or if you have the other thing, just copy paste it in there. And then I keep track once, of the income and costs with that. Oh, so now we get into, so with our provider costs, so you're going to go ahead and take the data of your provider costs, and when you scroll all the way down, this is where I keep track of the 1099s that are applicable in this business. So you just copy paste the data there and go ahead and put it in. I kind of put it up there and then just drag my data in to where it belongs. Though this is what you would need, and then this is how I keep track of the different totals for the different 1099s. And just a reminder, you don't have to issue a 1099 if the total is under 600. So this keeps track of whether a 1099 was issued or it didn't need to be issued because their total was under 600. Okay, so that covers that sheet. And then I have my sales tax sheet. So same thing, looking at whatever your sales was, if you use, your data over here, or all you do is buy the sales tax sheet, you'll just enter in your own data. And then I have it done by regions, so sometimes different tax areas. So if it's 10% tax in this area, 8% here and there, wherever. And then, so that keeps track of the different regions for filing. And then you can also want to copy the data from this side and put it by the applicable month. And the way that sales tax is, at least in this area, is you do it by, you can choose to do it semi-annually, or more frequent than that. So you definitely have to know by the month. So I'm doing it every 6 months. So my January through June total gets paid by July 20, and then the other half of the year gets paid by the following January 20. So those are how the sales tax works. You've seen the 1099s, and then the banking and the taxes are just where I keep records. What I've done to make it very easy in the banking thing is keeping track of all these different accounts that you saw on the other pages. So I do screenshots of the actual accounts. And so that way at the end of the year, I can look back and I have a screenshot of the different accounts, and it can go way down. But that way you can see, hey, January for this account and whatnot. You don't have to log in or sort through statements. It's just visual screenshots of all these things. There's a sample of what a credit card statements, you can throw them in for the year. So whether you take a photo of the actual statements, which sometimes have a lot of data, or just screenshot your statements just line by line, Those work really well. So that's what the banking sheet is. And then, oh, and also on the other thing where you can throw in screenshots, just I forgot to show you. So on the samples, and it should have duplicated. So if you come down, so I mentioned how I record the data, but I'll also throw screenshots onto there. Oh, and of course when I copied it, didn't want to copy. January. There we go. Okay, so this is where I throw in receipts. So you see under business expenses, I put in all my receipts, and I might have a bunch of them listed, and you can definitely add data rows. So that way all the receipts are under the expenses, and then like these were credit card transactions under the credit card thing. If I do different transfers, sometimes I do screenshots of that, so you can have this whole built-in place to do screenshots. So that's where I'll throw in the banking screenshots under banking. And then last, I have taxes. So whenever you have to do your actual taxes for the year, I like efile.com. Though you'll see, so I take screenshots when I do the tax return, so it makes it very easy for the following year to see. And then whatever the current info is, I'll throw that so I see what it was for the previous years and so forth. So just a easy thing that I've kept track just to make things so much easier when it goes to file and you have to think about that stuff. And then by using this system throughout the year, then you instantly can know your totals. So there you go. And if you need anything else, please reach out, email. I'm happy to hear from you, and we'll go from there. Look forward to hearing from you. Aloha!